Ba-da-ba-dum. It is UFC pay-per-view time! UFC 292, the Boston card. Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling. Before I get into that, can I please just give a blanket statement here every time one of these ideas comes up? There's a lot of talk right now about Terrence Crawford would do really well in MMA. Amazingly well. He's got a wrestling background. There's a video of him wrestling. It's amazing. Here's the thing about MMA. Why? People will be like, well, it's harder than it looks and whatever. And here's the thing. Terrence Crawford, with his athleticism, his drive to survive, or to succeed, I should say, his finances, could totally do a team death clutch, Brock Lesnar type deal. And bring in the best coaches. And yeah, in a remarkable period of time, could probably become stunningly good at MMA. But why? There is a reason. There is a very real reason that, with the exception of James Toney, who didn't even really try, it's MMA fighters going to boxing. There's a reason Nate Diaz boxed Jake Paul. There's a reason Tyron Woodley boxed Jake Paul. There's a reason that Kamaru Usman for a long time was sniffing at a boxing match with Canelo Alvarez. There's a reason Francis Ngannou is going to box Tyson Fury. There is a reason that the boxers are not coming this way, and there is no money in it. So every time this becomes a topic of conversation, I don't really get it. Honestly, in a nutshell, I don't fully understand, because it's just not going to happen. So there's your random non-fight card thing for the day. Let's talk about the fight card. This fight card is actually a bit weird. And I know I overuse that terminology, weird, whatever, but it's a fight card where going up and down, researching it, watching fights, watching people fight, and being at no point was I dissuaded from a narrative on really any of these fights. The initial read was there. It's still fascinating. It's still interesting. But I went in with fighter A is going to win. Fighter B is going to lose. Let's look at the footage. Fighter A is still going to win and Fighter B is still going to lose. And not only did the pick not change, the dynamic of the fight did not change. So that's interesting. And but they're still fascinating. And to be clear, I think this is not just a me thing, because looking at the betting odds here, using minus 200 as a significant favorite line. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 fights out of it's a 12 fight card, right? Yeah, 9 fights out of 12. 9 out of 12 fights. There is a betting line of minus 200 or greater as the bare minimum for the favorite. So the betting public is probably kind of with me here. Although there are some underdogs I need to pick here. I know there's at least one. There's two. There's two. Three underdogs. 3 underdogs I'm taking. So we got some stuff. We got some play. I want to start with a fight that is not the main event, shall we say. And that fight is going to be Ian Garry versus Neil Magny. Why am I starting with this first? Well, because a theme of this card is you're just a hater. And I want to outline something here. I do not like Ian Garry. I am not a big believer that he is a future champion. I am not a big, and I really do not like the, yes, it is a Conor McGregor ripoff personality thing. I don't like it. When you are literally saying as a great man once said, referring to Conor McGregor, and then you're repeating the same line, you are a knockoff Conor McGregor. He's starting to come away from that. He's starting to sort of become more his own man, and I appreciate that. I want to see that. I think I will come to like Ian Garry, but we're still very, very close to like the period where he was just a Conor knockoff. And I like Neil Magny. Yeah, he's like not my favorite fighter or anything, but like dating back to his TUF days, which was the first time I saw him. I was unfamiliar with his regional work. I've enjoyed him. He's a guy who knows his path to victory. He knows his skills. He knows his limitations. And he, to be honest, has had way more success than someone with his physical toolkit should ever have had. And that gets a big chest thump and a salute to Neil Magny. So you would think, based on that, hey, you're like kind of a Neil Magny fan. You really don't like Ian Garry. You're gonna let that get in the way and affect your technical analysis and pick Magny to win. No, I am picking Ian Garry to win. Ian Garry, for his faults as a presenter, shall we say, because I don't think it's necessarily right to say person, but as a presenter, as a personality, they do not extend to the cage. Don't get me wrong, I feel when I see people talking about Ian Garry as next champion, future defining talent, I'm not on that bandwagon. I can't find my way there. But like top 10, top 5 welterweight, title challenger? Absolutely. Dude is a very, very good range kickboxer. He has a great fundamental understanding of how to keep range. He's deadly without being not amazingly so, but like lethal. Like the technique is there. The ability to find accurate shots, the ability to find counters, it's all there. Keeps range well, like I said. And he's a guy who clearly also studies film like a madman, and that part is important. Because, like, there is something incredibly fascinating about him fighting Daniel Rodriguez and being like, I am going to knock him out with a head kick. Right head kick. And if I do anything else, it's an accident. Like, the ability to go through the film and have the confidence and the breakdown and the solidness to make that prediction and then go do it is amazing. And he's a perfectly capable grappler and wrestler, it seems. To be honest, he hasn't fought anyone super great at either of those things, but he does seem competent. He seems like a well-rounded guy with a game that works, that will age well because it's technically sound. It's got the nuance and the levels that you want to see. It's fantastic. And like I said, he has that fight IQ side of things because Neil Magny is a fight IQ test. Neil Magny is very, very tall. He makes people feel uncomfortable at range. He's 6'3", 80-inch reach. He does have a reach advantage of 6 inches here, but Garry is the same height. And one would think that Garry is prepared for a guy who is not a better range striker than him, but is just longer and will make him feel uncomfortable. Because that's what Magny does. It's not that Magny is some amazing outside striker. He's really not. You know, there's a decent jab there. There's some footwork. But there's no real power. He just makes you feel uncomfortable. It's a physical thing. It's that human dislike of getting hit when you can't respond. And I am banking, and a lot of people are banking, that Garry is just not going to find that a problem. He's not going to do what everyone else does, which is, I'm uncomfortable at range. I'm going to smash into Neil Magny's clinch, which is this Pandora's box of constantly getting more tiring and zapping and leeching ability. It's not even like, and the insidiousness of Neil Magny's clinch is it's not immediately apparent what's happening. Like, it is the sort of thing that gets worse and worse as the fight goes on. You're not going to find some footage of Neil Magny like instantly destroying someone in the clinch with his striking or his wrestling or his grappling or anything like that. It is a long-term, someone moved a chair. It is a long-term project. And I am trusting that Garry just won't play that game and will win a decision here. So despite not really liking Ian Garry, finding him overhyped, finding his fans toxically annoying, I am picking him in a fight. And I think my point there is going to come back in the main event, I assure you, is that, yes, there are fighters that I think you could classify me as a hater of. Like, I don't like them for whatever reason. Their personality, how they fight, whatever it is. There is something I dislike about them. But I think if you compile that list, that Colby Covington list, that Ian Garry list, that Chael Sonnen list, John Jones, Jamal Hill, trying to think of some other ones here. There are more, I assure you. Jason McDonald, another great example. I don't think you'll actually find that I am letting it affect how I pick the fight. And BJ Penn is the king of that. That not that I'm always right, because there is no fighter with a significant number of fights that I have not at some point gotten wrong. That I've thought that this is the moment they lose and then they don't, or this is the moment that they win and they don't. There is always something there. I can't think of a fighter who's like been in the UFC for a significant period of time, worked his way up the ladder that I have not at some point been wrong about. But if you look at the people I'm a fan of and the people I'm not a fan of, there isn't much of a difference on the winning percentage. So I felt the need to say that because I don't like Sean O'Malley. That's what this is going to end up being. Garry is a minus 490 to 530 favorite. Magny is plus 350 to plus 390. I think that's the largest favorite on the card, which makes sense. This is definitely a fight that the UFC is hoping that Garry wins, and it's a short notice one as well, because this was supposed to be Garry versus Jeff Neal. Yep, he is the biggest favorite on the card, and Magny by extension, Magny is the biggest underdog. All right, Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley. So I kind of buried the lead there by probably. You could probably figure out I'm picking Aljo. Now here's the thing. Yes, I'm going to go deeper in this. Yes, I dislike Sean O'Malley. I find his gimmick, his personality, his promotion to be largely annoying. I don't enjoy it. And it's a style that I don't enjoy, whatever. I'm not suggesting he should change anything. The guy's style is apparently creating interest for him. I guess we'll see what that translates to in terms of pay-per-view buys on this card. Well, we won't, but the UFC will. Actually, I don't know. Will Boston release those numbers? Oh, no. The buys will never get released. Anyways, we will see, I guess, internally if the UFC does find it to be something that actually works. And that's fine. That's whatever. But we have to really we have to look at something here with O'Malley, and that is, I don't think a UFC championship contender has ever had the record that he has. Because if I'm not mistaken, the only fighter that O'Malley has beaten in his UFC run since 2017 that is still on the roster is Peter Yan. And Peter Yan has had a really rough time. I think Raulian Paiva might still be on the roster. Does he have a fight booked? He does not. I don't know. Paiva might be on the roster. They may officially still have Eddie Wineland on the roster, but he's retired. Please stay retired. So that kind of leads us to the problem of he is good. He is a tall guy who really makes do with being 5'11" at 135, or he's 5'10" or 5'11". 5'11", 72-inch reach, which is pretty massive. And he is a good range striker. He is creative. He puts combinations together. He's got power, though not nearly the power his fans think he has, in my opinion. One does not go as long as he did against Chris Moutinho, a guy who has been knocked out a number of times, and have the kind of power that people, because people are trying to compare him to having a not Mike Tyson power because he's not a heavyweight, but like the bantamweight equivalent to Mike Tyson power. And he does not. He needs to land a very clean shot, a very well-timed shot to knock people out. But he is good at finding that. Like, he has a good sense of timing. He has a good sense of counters. And, for a guy who I expected to be kind of weak to pressure, he does a really good job of evading it with his footwork and his defense and punishing it. There is, of course, a big concern about his his legs because he, injured his legs against Andre Sukuta and against Marlon Vera. And, that has led to the concerns of a Corey Hill-esque question, which was like, as soon as 6'4" lightweight Corey Hill got on the scene, a lot of people were like, there's going to be a leg break in his future. And Sean O'Malley kind of like the same thing at 5'11" at bantamweight. Like, there are other 5'11" bantamweights. There's Corey Sandhagen, obviously. But there is a definitive lack of meat and weight on Sean O'Malley's legs. That does leave for, concerns in the future. That being said, Aljamain Sterling, big kicker, but not necessarily a big low kicker. Like, he likes to kick the body a lot more. So I don't see that being a particular problem. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that also makes this breakdown a little bit free of emotion. I don't like Aljamain Sterling either. It's like on a personal level. Like, there are some social views, some political views I can't co-sign, and I don't particularly enjoy his gimmick either. But in the cage, dude is a champion and an amazing athlete, very explosive, very powerful, great wrestler, amazing back take artist, which is the problem because a lot of O'Malley's grappling, and O'Malley is taking his grappling very seriously. Like, he's done competitive grappling and stuff. I appreciate that. I respect that. But there's a lot of things about him that still gives up his back. There are some moves that open up the back take game that he utilizes to stand up and to make things happen. That Aljamain Sterling, I have no problem thinking will just go like, oh, thank you. You have an Aljamain Sterling brand backpack. And break him down and probably rear naked choke him eventually. That's my read. Now, I also thought Peter Yan would beat O'Malley quite easily. I thought that the first round was going to be interesting, but Yan was going to get his reads and get his adaptations and take over the fight. And while I scored the fight for Yan, that never happened. So O'Malley over-delivered there. But that is, to date, his only very elite performance. And the way Peter Yan has fought lately, 1-4 in his last 5, I think. The embarrassment against Merab Dvalishvili being something I made so much money off of. It has to be asked, was that fight more about Peter Yan getting, I don't want to say fraud checked, but having something wrong, something broken in Yan right now that he can't really deal with? And you know what? If O'Malley can do it again, the crowd will probably go insane. The UFC will love it. And if he doesn't, we might see a really weird place because there is no really interesting defense on the cards for Aljo after this because Merab won't fight him. And I don't have an interest in seeing Aljamain versus Sandhagen. I don't. I wouldn't skip it. I wouldn't get angry at it, but I have no interest in it. And if he goes up to featherweight, obviously that creates a vacant title and we'll probably get some weird stuff. So the UFC probably would love O'Malley to win this fight. And they obviously don't want to, there's also the short notice nature of this for Aljamain. He had a shorter camp that he would have liked. But I am taking Aljamain to win this by submission. He is a -250 to -265 favorite. That could be wider. O'Malley +200 to +210. I just think that O'Malley is a great conundrum of a guy that I have no problem accepting is good, but there is a dramatic lack of actual proof. Also, I will defend O'Malley on something here. There's a lot of guys on Twitter, and possibly gals. I don't think I've seen a gal do it, but A lot of guys on Twitter are being like, if Sean O'Malley wins, how do I explain that this guy is the bantamweight champion of the world? And they're putting up like, the various ridiculous videos he releases. And it's like, guys, it's MMA. It's a silly sport. Sean O'Malley legitimately may not even be the silliest champion we've ever had. So let's just relax. And also at this point, a real talk. If someone's not a fan of MMA right now, if you've got a friend out there who's not a fan of MMA, guys, it's 2023. If they're not, then I don't know. I don't know what it would take. And that's kind of all there is to it. The other title fight in the co-main event, Weili Zhang versus Amanda Lemos. I like Amanda Lemos. I'm happy she's getting this title fight because I think she's earned it. She's a fantastic beast of an athlete with a 4 women strawweight excellent ability to find counters and clean strikes. She has a lethal and very dynamic and venomous submission game, particularly from the front headlock. And she's a good grappler and very, very strong. The problem is I don't see how she can win this fight. She is limited by the fact that she likes a low-pace fight, does not have great cardio, fades in fights, and is very, very reliant on just being too strong. This is a woman who had a very close fight with, for example, Angela Hill. And we know Angela Hill is not a title contender. She had a somewhat close fight with Marina Rodriguez. That's not necessarily a problem. Marina Rodriguez is a good fighter. But yeah, it's a lot of people she's just blown out of the water. Montserrat Ruiz, Miranda Granger, Lavina Souza, to a degree, Michelle Waterson Gomez. And then when she fought, people who that didn't happen with, she lost to Jessica Andrade. Now, Jessica Andrade is a incredible physical specimen in her own right. Probably the greatest freak in the lower women's divisions. And Weili Zhang is not that. But Weili Zhang is very, very athletic. She herself is a very physically imposing fighter who happens to also be able to fight at a high pace. Like, she can volume. She can push the pace. She won't fade. And this is not even really so much a knock on Lemos, even though there are some specific limitations to her. This is also like, how does one beat Zhang in general? Like, obviously, she's lost twice to Rose Namajunas. That's on the table. But Thug Rose herself is, when focused, an absolute beast. Like, Thug Rose is her own limiting factor, which I suppose is everybody in that regard, but like hers is a mental limitation. There's obviously Tatiana Suarez out there as the boogie woman who could possibly do it because, like, a beast and an amazing wrestler by women's strawweight standards. But yeah, I don't see it. Like obviously I can picture like Lemos hitting a dynamic guillotine choke or a counter punch that puts her down and puts her out, or even like a good snap elbow. She's got some nasty elbows in the clinch. But like, there's nothing about her game that suggests she can win moment to moment against Zhang. And Zhang is defensively sound and fairly, durable. Like, not unfinishable, not uncrackable. It's been done. She's lost 3 times in her career. She got, head kicked by Rose Namajunas. But I just don't see it. I don't see Lemos on that level. I'm happy she's getting a title shot, but at 34 years, she's 36 years old too, is another thing. Like, that's the thing is I don't think anything about her flaws are actually going to get fixed anytime soon, which is a problem. I've got Zhang by a submission, but like a TKO also wouldn't be surprised. Even I think this fight does end in a finish because I just see Lemos fading before the 5th round, and Zhang, taking the opportunity to get a rear naked choke or pound her out. Has to be on the cards. So yeah, I've got Zhang by submission. She's a minus 300 to minus 360 favorite, and Lemos is plus 250 to plus 270. Already went over Neil Magny, Ian Garry, Marlon Cheeto Vera, Pedro Munoz. This is another fight where I'm going against the guy I like. I like Pedro Munoz. Like the guy is not a physically amazing fighter for 135, but like punishing leg kicks, power, exceptional durability. He's made the absolute most of what he's got. Whereas Chito Vera is kind of like the opposite. Like Chito Vera is a freak. He's a super hard hitter with an incredible durability, but he gives away large segments of fight. He starts slow. Something he seems to have never really been able to get through, and he'll even pass up opportunities. Like he'll get an opportunity, in my opinion, to hurt someone really badly and then not take it. And it's not like he doesn't see it, because like he'll do it like a round later, and that is kind of frustrating. Like the story with his daughter is touching, but like on top of that, there is also the incredible foul heaviness that he is, the sort of bad boy fighting style to a degree. But I am of the opinion that Pedro Munoz doesn't really have it. Now, granted, that led to me picking Chris Gutierrez over him, and that didn't work. But the difference is that Chito Vera has the violence, the dynamicism, and the fight-ending threat that Gutierrez does not have. Really in any way, shape, or form. Like Gutierrez is kind of like, I'll play the same game as Pedro Munoz. Vera, it'll be like, Munoz will have some success. He'll land some nice low kicks. He'll throw some combinations. I don't see a takedown. Vera is kind of hard to take down. Very strong guy. Well, Corey Sandhagen did it. But I don't really see a lot of takedowns there. But like, just at some point, Vera's going to be like, I have seen enough, and pop. And Munoz, legendary chin. Insanely legendary chin. But I think that things that have not hurt him in the past are starting to hurt him. And I am picking Vera by TKO as a result. So, I mean, it's a fun fight. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Vera is only a minus 200 to minus 215 favorite. And Munoz is plus 162 to plus 170. That's closer than I expected, but I guess Vera's last fight. Is it last two? Am I missing one? Mm-hmm. Also, by the way, Mario Bautista versus Damon Blackshear is officially listed above this now. Yeah, it was a Sandhagen fight only. That probably put a little bit of a damper on it, but we also saw Sandhagen go out there and kind of like do kind of a lot of the same like wrestle heavy style against Rob Font. So I think that is not the it's not the warning sign that maybe some people are taking it to be. I just clicked on the wrong icon because I am a fool. Can we get rid of that? Thank you. Moving on. Mario Bautista, Devon Blackshear, a 1 week notice fight here. Blackshear fought literally on the last card. I am taking Mario Bautista, but I will say this. This has Jack Della Maddalena versus Basil Hafez vibes to it. In the sense that Blackshear is a guy who clearly does study tape. I mean, he had that whole thing about picking up on the elbows that Jose Alday throws and sinking in I could sink in a twister off of that. I could do these things. So it's very, very clear that he prepares. But at the same time, he's the sort of guy who's going to overperform on a short notice fight. He's kind of a one-track mind. Like, he's getting better as a striker. But like, when it comes down to it, it doesn't really matter who you are. Damon Blackshear wants to take you down, wants to scramble with you, and wants to take your back. And it doesn't really matter what bantamweight he's fighting. That is the bare bones of the game plan. Mario Bautista is a little bit more varied. He's a guy who I think likes to be very comfortable with like either a striking or a wrestling and grappling approach against somebody in a way that like just isn't there for Blackshear. So like the 1 week notice might be a legitimate problem for him. That being said, if this were a full camp, like I'd take Bautista unquestionably, and I guess I have to do that here because he is a better range striker. He's a better pocket striker. And I think he's a very, very similar level grappler. Like Mario Bautista is a very, very good grappler. Fantastic guy. Pride and joy of MMA Lab, I think, he is with the lab, right? Am I confusing him? Training what? No, he is a lab guy. Yep. Very, very good at the MMA Lab. He's coming forward. He's been doing a lot of good work lately. I've got to take him because Blackshear's stand-up is still a developing thing. And I do really question being able to peak twice in 2 weeks. Like, I really do question that. Like, if Blackshear wins, I think it's going to be largely because a lot of Bautista's camp was about Cody Garbrandt and not about Mario Bautista. Or not about Damon Blackshear, I should say. And that's a very, very different stylistic matchup. So, yeah, I am going with Bautista by decision just because he doesn't seem like a finisher if he doesn't have that, like, plan in place. And Blackshear is also a guy who has never been finished, I don't think. I should have written that down, but I get the feeling I've never seen it happen. Yeah, he lost a decision to Basharat, Sapatello, Pat Sabatini. These are all very good fighters, by the way. And then decision losses to Chris Moutinho and Keith Richardson. Yeah, he's never been finished. And his only amateur loss was to Tony Gravely. Never been finished. So I think denied a full training camp to study his foe. And on top of that, having a guy who's really, really hard to finish will leave this going to the distance. Depressing fight. Betting odds. Bautista is a minus 218 to minus 235 favorite. Blackshear plus 175 to plus 188. I wonder if that's the short notice nature of the fight because I think Bautista has a much higher profile expectation, I would think, than Blackshear. Who, I mean, Blackshear is like 2 fights away from people calling for him to get cut. Like I know he's got 2 wins in a row against Lacerda and Jose Alday. I think it was Lacerda anyways. But realistically, this is a guy that, before that was hanging on to his job by a thread. So it is interesting to see the betting odds that close. But it is a weak notice, so fair enough. Chris Weidman and Brad Tavares. This is a depressing fight. I know there's only 4 years between these two guys, 39 to 35. Tavares' age always kind of surprises me. But I can't pick Weidman. It's a shame because he's a horribly overlooked historical fighter, I think. I think when we talk about Chris Weidman, and some of this is his own doing because he has what Eugene Robinson refers to as the Gauleiter General of the Lost Battalion. He's out in the mist, saying things that, he's talking about I'm going to rebuild and go for the title. No, you're almost 40. Just look for a win and then go out on top, man. You should be doing the Zach Cummings thing and the there's another fighter who retired recently off a win. Robbie Lawler. You should be looking to do the Robbie Lawler thing. Just get out of here. It's over from the standpoint of a top end fighter, and you're coming off a massive leg injury. You were fading before that. It's over. And I'm only picking Tavares to win a decision because Tavares is a distinct non-finisher. That is the only reason that I am not picking Tavares just roll over you. Also, Tavares himself is also fading. He's becoming, I think, more nervous about pulling the trigger, and it leads to poor decision making and so on. The Jixi Duplessis fight was a great example of that. Don't get me wrong, obviously DDP much better than we thought at the time, or at least I thought at the time. I think most of the fans at the time thought. But at the same time, there's a breaking down of the foundation of Tavares' game, which was always very, very bare bones to begin with. But yeah, he should win the fight. It's just Weidman probably really should be fighting. Tavares is a minus 258 to minus 290 favorite. Weidman is plus 210 to plus 225. That could be wider. Gregory Rodriguez, Dennis T. Lunin. I am excited for this fight. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be action-packed. It's going to be high-paced. That being said, I don't really see how Tia Lunin wins. Like, don't get me wrong. I know how Tia Lunin wins. Like, he would knock out Gregory Rodriguez. He would hit him really, 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 really hard. But Rodriguez, for one thing, is I am always stunned when Rodriguez is the younger fighter. He's only 31. Man looks so old. He's like the anti-Yoel Romero here. Yeah, Tia Lunin's just not good. Like, that's what it comes down to. He's not a good wrestler. He's not a particularly good striker. He's a creative and chaotic striker. Like, he's the sort of guy that catches you in like wild exchanges, which this fight will absolutely have plenty of. And that has to be said as a possibility. That's like what I said. Like, I know how him winning looks like. It's some insane exchange where he hits Rodriguez just really, really hard. But he's just not very good. Like, he's not a good grappler. He's not a good, he's not a particularly good wrestler. He's not like I said, not a particularly good striker. Like, he's powerful, chaotic. Rodriguez is, for a guy whose bread and butter is BJJ, a pretty solid striker. Very aggressive, very, wild. And obviously he got caught against Bruno Ferreira. That could happen again. But yeah, he's just, it's like one of those things, like even having seen Bruno Ferreira knock out Gregory Rodriguez, if you were to book Rodriguez Ferreira too, I would still pick Rodriguez without a second thought because, like, yeah, lightning strikes. Like that's kind of what it comes down to. Rodriguez does have like a annoying tendency to let people get up from grappling exchanges and be way too aggressive. But like Tia Lunin's response is honestly to like kind of meet aggression with aggression, even as a grappler. So that'll work out for Rodriguez, I think, and he'll probably pat him out on the ground. Looking forward to the fight, but the dynamic is not that interesting. Ultimate Fighter finale. Betting odds. Rodriguez, one of the biggest favorites on the card, minus 350 to minus 400. Tia Lunin, plus 260 to plus 285. Makes sense. The two Ultimate Fighter finales, Kurt Hallbaugh versus Austin Hubbard, is the first one, the lightweight one, the one that's going on second, based on the order here. I loved Kurt Hallbaugh on the show. It looks like he's still got something to give, honestly. Like, he was one of the few guys on this season that I actually thought was like, you know what? I don't need to see Kurt Hallbaugh again. Like, there were guys like Brad Katona, we're going to talk about, Timur Valiev, Hunter Azure. These were guys that was like, why did these guys even get cut? And even like Roosevelt Roberts, Roosevelt Roberts was kind of like in the same boat. We're like, why did you get cut? I don't really get it. I don't really understand. And that was, kind of it. On the show, he proved that he still has it. Like, that even at his age, he's still rolling on and doing some good things. Like, he's still super durable. His stand-up actually looks better. He can grapple. He can wrestle. He can do everything. Austin Hubbard, he can do everything as well. But, like, his UFC run was just kind of flat. Every time he stepped up against someone really good, he lost. Hallbaugh in the same boat, obviously. So this is kind of a coin flip, honestly. Like, they're both perfectly fine fighters who will bulk out cards. But it is kind of the failure of this season that this is the final. It's not new blood, and it's not blood that I'm super excited to see back. But it'll be a good, fun fight, I think, and I'm going with Hallbaugh. He's the underdog. Maybe that's just why. Like, just him being the underdog is what was making me, want it. He's plus 140 to plus 150, and Hubbard's minus 170 to minus 188. Should be mostly a pretty boxing-heavy exchange. Both of these guys like to do that, but both of them do have the option to take it to the ground, where I do think Hallbaugh is better. Cody Gibson, Brad Katona. I'm taking Brad Katona pretty easily here. I'm surprised he's only minus 160 to minus 192. Gibson plus 135 to plus 150. I have it by decision. Simply put, I don't think Gibson's that good. He was the guy that, like, when he was announced, like, I remembered Hollowball and Hubbard, even if I wasn't excited for them. Gibson was the one I had to go back and, like, watch and be like, huh, who did, even now, it doesn't stick into my brain who Cody Gibson fought in his first UFC run. I'm having to pull it up here. Yeah, he lost to Aljamain Sterling, beat Johnny Bedford, lost to Manny Gambirian, and Douglas Silva de Andrade. That's not bad. A lot of people would go 1-3 against that. A lot of people would go 0-4 against that. But he's not particularly good at anything. Like, I know he's got a wrestling background. He's, predominantly like a top grappling, scramble guy, obviously. He's got some stand-up power and creativity. But, like, Brad Katona is a much more schooled fighter. And trains with a much better team. Like, that's another thing. Like, as much as I hate SBG Ireland as perhaps the most overrated gym in the history of MMA because of Conor McGregor, it is still like a solid, like, C to B tier gym. And Cody Gibson kind of trains with nobodies. And like I said, just not a phenomenal athlete, which is usually what it takes to, make that kind of setup work. And he's dogged. He's determined. Katona's not really a finisher. So, it'll go the distance. It'll be fun. But I do have to take Katona, and I'm probably going to bet on him despite the fact that he is the favorite. My other underdog pick of the card is Gerald GM3 Meerschaert. He's fighting Andre Petroski. Now, I want to say this. Andre Petroski is a much better athlete and has a much, much, much higher ceiling than GM3. He, nothing really limits him. But everything he does is inefficient, and his cardio is not great. So unless he blows GM3 out of the water right away, I see this going long. And I don't like Petroski's chances in any kind of long fight. The other thing is Petroski really has been marketing himself as, like, the best grappler at 185. Like, he's like, I want to fight the best grapplers at 185. I want to out-grapple them, and I want to take their crown. And I respect that, but that is not the way to beat Gerald Meerschaert. That is historically not what you do with him. So if he's going to engage in Meerschaert's game, despite the fact that Meerschaert's last fight against Joe Pyfer was not good, I just see him being, to be honest, just the better technician. On the ground, he's a fantastic choker. He's a fantastic scrambler. He's got great top control. Petroski gets tired, finds himself in a problem, and gets choked out. That's what I see. I get that Petroski's the favorite. I get that he's a little bit of the new hotness. He's coming through the world. He's doing some good things. There's immense potential for him. But I just think that there is the wrong mindset for this. And the age isn't even all that far apart because Petroski's 32. He's not like some young buck who's going to, like, make massive strides, I think, between fights. And he's not a good striker. Like, he's a powerful striker, but he's not a good striker. Meerschaert can handle that. Minus 225 to minus 260 on Petroski. Don't bet that line. And Meerschaert plus 180 to plus 200. If you're betting on this, you bet Meerschaert. Andrea Lee versus Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva is someone I wasn't really big in when she came in, but, like, girl, it has immense physicality. She's creative. She puts good combinations together. She fights at a pretty high pace. She hits really, 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 really hard. She is stunningly hard to bully and wrestle, as shown by her fights with very raw, but, like, huge flyweights, Jasmine Jasudavicius and Teresa Bleda. So my concern is that she's too small. They're still kind of there. Like, she still feels more like a strawweight. But Andrea Lee is not a phenomenal athlete. She is a strong fighter. She is incredibly durable. And she does tend to fight relatively smart. Like, she usually has a game plan. I assume she's going to go out there and try to force clinches on Silva, get her down, utilize her size, be the top control girl. I just think that you need an actual, like, athletic base or, like, a really, really good, like, wrestling game to make that happen. And Lee's just kind of a mugger, kind of slow-footed, use my strength, use my durability, take a lot of shots to get where I need to go, and then impose my will. I just don't see it happening. I see it going the distance because Lee is insanely tough, and I've got Natalia Silva with the win. She's the minus 345 to minus 400 favorite, which is one of the largest on the card. I do think that's a little wide. KGB Lee plus 270 to plus 300. I'm still not betting on KGB Lee. Marina Moroz versus Karine Silva is a actually really similar fight to Lee and Natalia Silva. Not the same because they're both very different fighters. Moroz is a well-built fighter, 5'7" at flyweight, very tall, 6-7 inch reach, good jab, good combinations, very good control, clinch, and grappler. She does a very, very good job on top. And she's suffocating. She's nullifying. It's what she kind of does. She'll take your tools away either by staying far outside or coming inside. She's not great if she gets caught in the pocket, but she does a really, really good job. And she's not a phenomenal athlete, but she's not a bad athlete. Karine Silva is a fantastic athlete. Very, very explosive, very dynamic, both as a striker and a grappler. She'll pull wins out of nowhere. And the thing is that is the person I am prone to actually picking against. Like, it's not disliking Karine Silva. It's a style of fighter that I'm always going to have a hard time getting behind. And that creativity, that explosive, that dynamicism could absolutely win here. But I feel like the range management that Moroz has, the fact that she's actually a really solid fundamental control grappler, and that she's, reasonably big, even though somehow she used to make strawweight. My Lord. It just feels like she could suffocate Silva's game and make this into a not particularly eventful, not particularly high-paced, not particularly creative fight, but make it about the fundamentals. Make it about fundamental clinch grappling. Make it about the jab. Make it about baseline boxing and kickboxing. And that's her game, and that's not Silva's game. So I am picking her by decision because Silva is, really, really twofold. Moroz is not really a finisher, and Silva is pretty tough. Silva's the favorite. I do get that. I understand that. She's minus 140 to minus 158. I get it. She's looked very, very good lately. But I think we have to point something out here that her competition in the UFC has not been very good. Karine Silva won on Contender Series and then beat the absolute mess that is Polyana Botella. Botella is like a very strong, very physical person. Don't get me wrong. But she will play Silva's game with possibly even less technique. And Ketlin Souza is not very good and very small. Another thing. Definitely someone who should consider strawweight as a thing. So yeah, I do have her. She's had, and this has happened. She's lost to Marina Moroz before. They fought in 2014. Moroz armbarred her. I'm not picking the same thing to happen, obviously, but I'm picking things like that. Like when she's fought reasonably sized, reasonably athletic, reasonably well put together fighters. Marina Maknakina beat her, and I've never seen her fight with Elaine Albuquerque. But I assume that might be the same. And even the Dion Barboza fight, similar thing. She's not reliable. She is reliably dangerous at all times, but she is not a reliable fighter. It is a shame that we don't get Rob Font versus Yadong Song on this card. That would have been dope. It's a shame that we don't get Henry Cejudo versus Chito Vera on this card. That would have also been dope. But the replacement fight for Vera is still a good one in Pedro Munoz. And Font at least got to headline an Apex card. Or Nashville, pardon me. And I do actually think that Ian Garry fighting Neil Magny is a step up in terms of challenge from Jeff Neal. I've never been a big Jeff Neal fan, which is a problem. And Mario Bautista versus Damon Blackshear is actually far more interesting than Cody Garbrandt, even though it has nowhere near the name value. So anyways. Odds. Pardon me, I did odds. Silva's the favorite. Anyways, thank you for taking your time. Down below, there's some social media links as well as my Discord where we're doing the fight sim. I don't know if I'm going to do a recap for this card because I have a dentist appointment on Saturday before the fights. That's going to be fun. Dentist appointment, then fights. So I'm not saying it's not without going into too many details. It's not a standard cleaning or anything. This is a procedure, which will cost a lot of money. So I don't know. I might be talking a little bit funky come Sunday. So we'll find out if on the Discord I'll give some thoughts. But on X Twitter I'll give some thoughts. If you want, you can check me out there. But there may not be a podcast and this particular recap, even though I'm looking forward to the card. So have a good day and enjoy the fights.